Hi again. In this session, we are going to continue with the topics from chapter 1. In this video, we will talk about the differences between animal language and human language, and based on the differences, we will arrive at what are the fundamental and universal properties of human language. In the second video, we will talk about language and thought. The question is this: are the communicative systems that are used by other species like human language? For example, birds sing, and through singing they are making some types of communication. For example, they do mating. Or spiders, crabs. Is the language that is used, or you can say the system of communication that is used by spiders, crabs, birds, dogs, and apes, are they similar to what human beings are using? As we are going to answer this question, we will arrive at what are the universal properties of human language. Spiders have a complete system of courtship, but the thing about their communicative system is that the gestures never vary. That is, they always use the same gestures, and if they are asked to do otherwise, they would not be able to do that, because this is something that they know by instinct, and they do not have any knowledge about that, so that they would be able to divide the gestures into units and then use them creatively. So then here we are dealing with a fixed set of gestures. Crabs also have a kind of waving system. And through this waving system, they give signs to each other. They would tell each other that they are members of the same clan. So there is timing, movement, and posture, but the thing is that they are fixed. It is not the case that one of the crabs would use it differently. That is, you cannot see any crab that would use a different movement with a different timing or with a different posture. The idea that the communicative system that is used by animals is fixed means that they are using it as a whole, and there is no internal structure to that. But human language is composed of discrete units. For example, in the word bag, it is made up of b-a-g. That is 3 phonemes, and these phonemes, they are combined based on the rules of the grammar. For example, we do not have gba, or we do not have bega. However, gab is possible, but it is not a word. That is, it is a possible word, but we do not have it. This is a gap. But some of the combinations, they are against the rules of the grammar. So then, human language has discrete units, and these discrete units are combined based on a certain number of rules, a definite number of rules. Another feature about human language is that it has duality, double articulation. That is, human language is organized at 2 levels simultaneously. There is one level, which is the level of phonemes, and this level of phonemes doesn't have any intrinsic meaning. It has no meaning. In the example that we had, bag, bag, they do not have any meaning in themselves. However, when they are using combination, by changing them, we might have a change in meaning. For example, here, nap, n-ap. Well, these phonemes, they are discrete units of English language. They do not have any meaning by themselves in isolation, but when they are combined and they form words, Then these words have distinct meanings, like nap, pan. So then we have two levels. At one level we have no meaning, which is the level of phonemes, and then we have another level, and at that level we have distinct meanings, like the distinct meanings that we have for the words that are made up of phonemes. So let's have a look at this cartoon. Well, you see two birds talking to each other. I wrote a new song. We've been imprinted in our hearts to sing the same song for thousands of generations. Yes, but mine rocks. Okay, so you see that, well, birds songs, however, they have really fascinated us, and we take pleasure in listening to them. There is nothing creative about them. We take pleasure from listening to the bird songs, but they are not made in order for us to be enjoying them, but that they are using it in order to tell each other about danger, feeding, nesting, flocking, staking out territory, attracting mates. And the calls of the birds could be of two types: bird calls that are short tones, for example, one tone, and bird songs that are complex. But the thing is that they have no internal structure. The European robin would use alternating pitch, that is, high pitch and low pitch, but it only shows the intensity for marking its territory. Or finches have been observed to see what is their reaction to familiar songs if they are rearranged differently. And they can only react to the familiar song, which is made in a fixed order, not in any other order. Or dancing honeybees. Honeybees have an interesting signaling system. For example, when a forager bee returns to the hives, she communicates to other bees about the source of the nectar, like what is its distance from the hive, whether it is 20 feet away. In that case, it would make a round dancing. If it makes a sickle, then it means that it is 20 to 60 feet from the hive, and if she makes tail wagging, it shows that the distance exceeds from 60 feet. So in one experiment, the experimenter have made the honeybee to, rather than fly, to walk for a certain amount of time. Then it was released so that it would go and tell the others about the source of the nectar. The thing is that forager was confused. It couldn't communicate information about the source of the nectar. So then, if circumstances change, the honeybee signaling system doesn't work anymore. It only works if the situation remains, the circumstances are the same. If there would be any change to that, if any honeybee would be hurt, then they would not be able to communicate the same type of information accurately. Along with the alternating pitch that we see in robins and what we have observed in finches and here in honeybees, we can see that creativity or productivity is the universal property of human languages, that in all world languages, human languages, they use the same unit to express different messages with different meanings. And we have a limited set of units, but then they would be combined differently in different language based on the rules of different grammars. Another distinction between human language and animal language is that the response of animals is limited to their immediate environment. That is, you cannot see any history of ideas of dogs, for example, or history of the ideas of the apes. It's because their reaction is limited to the here and now. Whatever that they are able to communicate about is about here and now. And they are not able to say or send messages that are not related to here and now. But human beings, well, they have written history books. That is, they are able to talk about the past. They are able to talk about the future. This property is called displacement. So then another feature in which human language and animal languages are different is displacement, and that's the ability to talk about events that are not related to here and now, that are about some other time and some other place. That is what we mean by displacement. The last feature, which is not mentioned in your book, is reflexivity. Well, we human beings, we can use language in order to talk about language. Why do we have linguistic class? In our linguistics class, we use language in order to analyze language. And this is something that we are capable of doing it. No robin, no honeybees, no dogs, no apes have been observed to be talking about the system, the communicative system that they are using in order to communicate. So as we talk about it and say, well, let's come up with new signs in order to meet the new requirements of the modern world. So then, this is something that is specific to human language. There is one resemblance in language development between human language and animal language, and that is critical period. Meaning that there is a period in which human beings and animals are highly sensitive to language learning, and they learn the language faster. For human beings, it can happen after that. However, it would be slower and with more difficulty, and for birds, the window would be closed. So now, another question. Well, we talked about what are the features of human language and what are the features of animal language. But if human beings would like the animals to speak their language, is it possible? Can animals learn human language? Well, we have seen parrots and miners, and we might have been even fascinated by how great they speak. But they are not using language creatively, and they do not have some mind representation for the language that they are using. That is, they do not know what the words mean, or if, for example, holy and holy would rhyme with each other. Therefore, however, human beings have decided and have attempted to teach parrots and miners, or parrots and miners have imitated what human beings say, well, that is far from what a human language is. Some have experimented with dogs. A dog called Rico, and which was brought up in a German family. It learned up to a 200 word vocabulary, and it has the ability to associate a new word with a new toy. which is remarkable, but it is not comparable to that of human language. Another dog chaser in South Carolina has learned 1,200 words for toys. And again, it also had this ability to associate new words with new toys. If there was a toy there and it didn't know the name for that, and they have asked Chaser to bring the new thing with the new word, it could find the new toy and bring it, which means association between new word and the toy. But they fall short of using it creatively and spontaneously as human beings do. You can see a long record of experiments on chimpanzees. Washoe, Coco, Nim Chimpsky. You can search for project name and can find it. Sarah, Lana, Sherman, Austin, Kanzi, and many chimps have been taught to learn human language. In their first attempts, they have trained these chimps to speak like human beings, but they have failed. Then they have thought that, well, it might be just because of the vocal production, and since even deaf human beings, they are using gestures and sign language in order to communicate, they have decided to use science in order to teach them human language and to study whether they learn human language. And they failed again, or well, by failing we mean that they have learned something around 100 words or 100 sentences, but then beyond that, so that they would be able to use the sentence structure creatively and use it spontaneously in new circumstances, like the way that human beings do, and they create sentences that they have not produced before, or they have not heard before. They understand sentences that they have not heard before. They were not able to do that. And then they continued their studies with symbolic languages, like using shapes or objects to represent words. And then through objects and shapes, they would teach these chimps to learn the language. In all of these cases, they wanted to see whether these primates have the ability to communicate using abstract symbols. And the findings tell us that, well, animals do not have the creativity and the spontaneity that is in human language. A child of age 3 or 4, they are able to use language creatively and spontaneously based on the circumstances. But after years of training these chimps or dogs or parasominoids, they are not able to do what a 3-year-old human baby would do. And the thing is that children would learn the language without explicit guidance. And they are able to create new words, and they are able to create complex sentences little by little, gradually. And they are sentences or structures that they have never spoken or they have never heard before. So animal language is not comparable to human language because it falls short of human language in creativity and being spontaneously used.